So as we talked about in the last video, it looks like Donald Trump is now militarizing DC. Already protests are forming. I want to show you what's going on, and let's jump right in.
Whose house is this? Our house! Whose house is this? Our house!
Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Protect home rule!
Tim Waltz says the road to authoritarianism is littered with people telling you you're overreacting. What is going on? Here's the headline. Trump orders federal moves on DC crime, takes over DC police. This is Trump talking about it now.
And we're here for a very serious purpose, Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job.
All to say, it's going to get ugly. It's already ugly, but every day Trump does yet something more egregious. The problem with talking about any of this stuff in the USA is people retreat to their tribes and aren't honest about any of this stuff. And, the big problem right now is, how could anyone, we'll just say who likes Trump or whatever, say, oh yeah, it's so great that we're going to militarize everything and effectively declare martial law kind of stuff. I'll just tell you guys, I literally lived through this in Korea recently. The people here impeached the president in Korea. It was a long thing. I've made several videos on this topic. It's important to point that out because this has happened in other places and everyone reacts differently. People should be really quite upset in USA. The sad thing about it, though, and this is where USA is different than other places, that because it's so large, physically large, USA, what's happening in DC, maybe people in the Midwest or West Coast, etc., don't feel like it affects their lives. But you actually want to stop this early, opposed to having it spread all across the nation. To the Trump people, this is all a joke and a TV show. I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
You're building a big, beautiful ballroom. Yeah. Could we build a big, beautiful briefing room?
Yes.
Technology, more seats.
I don't want to do that. I don't want you to be comfortable. No, I don't want to make life.
See, do you understand? Like, you're announcing basically I'm taking over the DC, federalizing, calling the National Guard and stuff like that. In the same, press conference, he's like making jokes about DC. Don't want you to be comfortable with these things. You can hear some more opposition on MSNBC. Listen to this.
I have lived in the Washington metropolitan area for my entire life, almost 50 years now. I've lived in the city for 20 years. The most violent moment in my life in Washington, D.C., the greatest cause of a threat, not only physical threat, but bigger threat to the country and certainly to law enforcement officers, was January 6, 2021, when Donald Trump's supporters, his allies, some people who currently work for him, charged into the Capitol, beat cops, screamed profanities at them, yelled, "Kill the cops," said they wanted to hang the Vice President of the United States. And Donald Trump's response to that, here in the nation's capital, at the Capitol building, was to pardon everyone who was involved and in some cases rehire them into his government. So watching this play out in the White House briefing room without any mention of the violent crime that was committed on his behalf in Washington, D.C. is a little unusual.
And then that was the first thing that I thought of also when you just calling the National Guard, because you could find all this stuff on YouTube if you want to watch it again, the events of January 6th. You can also see behind the scene footages who took leadership, who was running away. It's all public. And I know for people like Trump, you actually don't watch any of that stuff. So basically, you prefer to be ignorant, and it's frustrating to deal with anything in the USA. For any of these stuff happening in news, markets, whatever, I literally just try to look at everything and give you guys an honest opinion on stuff. Is there crime in DC? Sure. Is there crime in other cities in the USA? Yeah, absolutely there is. But I want to give you a caveat. Why is it that when you talk about the stuff on Fox News or whatever, and they point out crime, it's always someone of color that they point out to? And I've pointed this out before. So, for example, if there is a school shooting, be it high school or university or anything like that, and if it is a white perpetrator, Fox News won't show the person's picture, and they'll sort of cover up the story. If it's someone of color, they're like, oh my God, look at all these, people are trying to hurt you, etc. That's basically racist dog whistling. For me, it's all the same. No matter what the color of the person, hey, if someone committed crime, you can report it, it's fine. And then the other issue which I want to mention, which people don't talk about enough, how the sort of right-wing media sort of gets you thinking is that, oh, we have to be, concerned about violent crime, and that's the most important thing, which again, I'm not for crime, of course. I mean, who wants crime? And I have family who live in the Baltimore area. A lot of places are unsafe. It's completely true. But you tell me, guys, someone who can come in and basically scam you out of your retirement, steal your life savings, why don't we persecute and prosecute those people more? Just let that sink in. Let that sink in. Let's say someone in your neighborhood, just for example, steals a candy bar, right? Should the police come in and, effectively do whatever they want with said person for stealing a candy bar worth $1, $2? Or what if someone who steals, millions of dollars, steals people's retirement? So I want to put this all in perspective.
My message to residents is this. We know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many Washingtonians before me advocate for full statehood for the District of Columbia. We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past that we're totally surprised. I can say to DC residents that we will continue to operate our government in a way that makes you proud. We will balance our budgets. We will deploy our services. Our kids are going to start school on August 25th. And we will work with the federal government to do the things that they should do for our city.
Then you get into a bunch of other stuff. But I know people don't think that way, but you have to think about your other way of thinking. And then another way to think about it now on this topic, instead of talking about, hey, we have to bring in the police, National Guard, and, basically take over everything and turn everything into the military. Why don't we ever talk about, hey, how about we build up our schools better? How about we support people with food? How about we have, life safety nets with healthcare, transportation, these kind of things, right? It's a different way of thinking about stuff opposed to, I'm just going to beat people down whenever I can. So it's frustrating to me, this stuff. And I think for any just sane person out there, we all want to be safe. I don't think that's anything, outrageous to say. Sure, I agree. We should also be safe. But we should also want to be honest about any of these conversations. Trump's going to try to tell you that DC is the most dangerous place in the USA. So there are other cities they could have done, theoretically, right? Why not go to Memphis or St. Louis, Detroit, Baltimore, or Kansas City, just for example, just showing you guys this stuff. The violent crime in DC, this is what they were showing on the Washington Post. This comes from the Metro Police Department. They're basically saying crime has been going down. These are charts right there. And
I've said before, and I'll repeat, that I believe that the president's view of DC is shaped by his COVID era experience during his first term. And it is true that those were more challenging times related to some issues. It is also true that we experienced a crime spike post-COVID, but we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike. This year, crime isn't just down from 2023, it's also down from 2019, before the pandemic, and we're at a 30-year violent crime low.
It is what it is. President Donald Trump announced Monday that he was placing the D.C. police under direct federal control and will deploy the National Guard to the streets of Washington to fight crime, an extraordinary flex of federal power that stripped city leadership of its ability to make law enforcement decisions and could expose residents of the nation's capital to unpredictable encounters with domestically deployed military force. And that was the first thing that I was thinking of is, like I said, I mentioned in the prior video, I'll just mention it again. Are we going to now start possibly arresting political opponents? You never know with Trump. You never know with Trump what he's doing, and it's scary because this is actually quite serious. Decision to take over the Metropolitan Police Department and deploy 800 National Guard troops. Right, that's what he's doing here. And I want to read some comments from you guys. This is coming a few hours ago. I guess the reason this happens now in U.S. is because in Europe, South and Central America, and Asia, people know how dictatorships work. So now it's the time for the USA to have this educational experience. And that's why I always mention just the experience here, for example, when we recently impeached the president for trying to do a martial law. Because we had the experience here in Korea before with these kind of people. And literally people took to the streets, just like, get out. It's literally happened. I made several videos on this topic. I know it's not that popular to talk about this stuff on YouTube because it comes in another country and Americans just want to learn about one country. And I get that, right? I get that. So, but if for those of you who do want to educate yourselves, you can see my several videos on this particular topic about the whole impeachment thing. We saw it live, and there are other ways to do things, and it was all peaceful. I can't stress the importance of that enough. This is coming in from DC. It says, the administration's actions are unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful. There's no crime emergency in the District of Columbia. So basically, anything that Trump does, be it with this militarization of DC or declaring, I have to do all these tariffs, stuff like that, he has to basically convince you that there's always an emergency, and therefore he needs to take on more power. Okay, so that's why I showed you Tim Walz's comment in the first place, which is like basically, hey, it's always an emergency, and therefore I have to do authoritarian stuff. Also from DC, it says violent crime in DC reached historic 30-year lows last year and is down 26% so far this year. We are considering all of our options and will do what's necessary to protect the rights and safety of district residents. Here's another comment coming in from Unique Libra, and I appreciate everyone's comments. I do read everyone's. I just can't respond all the time, but I do read them. This person says, why do you keep saying that the United States is following Germany when Germany 1930s discrimination literally used Jim Crow policies and vagrancy laws, while also denying the resources to learn to read? It's a shame that so many people are uneducated of African American history that they do not comprehend that the United States is the blueprint for South African apartheid and also the mistreatment of Jews in Germany in 1930s. Henry Ford funded the Mustache Party people. I employ all you to do a history of the 1990 Red Summer and summers following that, when African American USA troops got back from World War I, and the good old boys in the USA wanted to make sure the returning vets know to stay in their place within the caste system. Please, please, please stop the wreck that the US is copying Germany and spread correct information that the KKK is the blueprint for the, again, Mustache Party. And because the USA never got rid of the KKK, now it's a problem for the whole world. So you get all sorts of complicated stuff when you talk about this, but I just want to say this is a different point of view. It's really complicated, okay? So the reason why we mentioned the Germany stuff, because we're talking about essentially overthrowing the government and getting rid of, how do I say it, displacing or abusing people who are at the margins, right? So Trump spends all his time attacking people of color or trans people. They spend all this time on that. Now they're going after homeless people. Like they're going after the people who are the most vulnerable position. That's the best way to put it. And I do appreciate talking about African American history, just part of American history. I'm well aware of this stuff. I can't address everything all day, every day. But I do want to mention I do hear your voices, and that's why I'm reading it. I'm literally sharing it. So I do appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's important. I also am going to bring this up. I can't talk about it every day. It's not the focus of my channel, but I do see it. Because someone asked me today, Chris, why don't you make videos every day about Gaza? It's just, I try to focus on the money, the markets, and stuff like that. But yes, I do see it. And I think it matters because I do care about humans no matter what you look like or where you live. I do care. This was a story that should be important to see. Anas al-Sharif among 5 Al Jazeera staff killed by Israel in Gaza. So I do see this stuff. I just wanted to point this out. Let's see more from Trump.
Market. So I said, listen, I want 20% if I'm going to approve this for you, for the country, for our country, for the U.S. I don't want it myself. You know, every time I say like 747, I want, yeah, for the Air Force. So I just wanted, so when I say I want 20, I want for the country. I only care about the country. I don't care about myself. And he said, would you make it 15?
And if you look at Pam Bondi's body language there, she puts her head down when he's like, you know, basically Trump is lying here, but just watch Pam Bondi on the right. There's body language.
So I just wanted, so when I say I want 20, I want for the country. I only care about the country. I don't care about myself. And he said, would you make it 15? So we negotiate a little deal. So he's selling a essentially old chip that...
And basically what Trump's trying to do here is saying, justifying extortion of NVIDIA and AMD, and at the point where things like, I don't care about myself, and Bonnie looks down. This is the kind of stuff that I look for. I look at everything. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. It's a long and difficult conversation in USA. I'll just say this, be honest with yourself, guys. Do you want the military or FBI who are not trained to do what Trump wants them to do and suddenly start taking over everything? Is that what you want? And be honest about it. And also be honest about if you're actually seriously looking at the crime charts that we talked about, or be honest about, hey, what do you think about what I mentioned about, say, with white collar crime and stealing people's retirements? Do you think that's important, that we should enforce it or not? So that's my thoughts, and catch you on the next video.